Reverend Father Harold John Weber, S.J., a man of pioneering spirit. In the heart of New Orleans, where jazz filled the air and history whispered through the streets, a young boy named Harold John Weber was born on February 20, 1914. The son of a devout Catholic family, he grew up in a world still reeling from war, on the cusp of modernity. Yet even as a child, there was something different about him, a quiet intensity, a hunger for something greater. That hunger led him to the Society of Jesus. At Loyola University, he immersed himself in philosophy and theology, but his true calling lay beyond the classroom. In 1946, as the world rebuilt from the ashes of World War II, Father Weber heard a distant summons, a fledgling Jesuit mission in Ceylon, an island of lush green and ancient traditions. Without hesitation, he answered. In 1947, he arrived in Batticaloa with Father McNair and Father Heaney. The humid air, unfamiliar language, and vibrant culture were all new. But in that moment, a lasting bond was formed between a priest and the people who became his family. For 50 years, Father Weber walked the halls of St. Michael's College. He never sought titles, not principal, not rector, not minister. Yet, in the hearts of his students, he was all these things and more. He taught religion in Tamil, a language he mastered out of love for his flock. He guided A-level history students through the rise and fall of empires, but his greatest lessons were not in textbooks. They were in patience, in perseverance, in faith. Every Sunday, children gathered for his masses, not out of obligation, but because they felt something rare in his presence. A kindness that demanded nothing in return. A love that asked only to be shared. Father Weber was not a trained athlete, but he had something more valuable, an eye for potential, and a heart that refused to let it go to waste. He began by simply watching. Then, with quiet determination, he started coaching. Cricket, volleyball, athletics, it didn't matter. Under his guidance, St. Michael's teams began to win. Not just matches, but respect. Not just trophies, but pride. And he coached everyone. Boys from wealthy families and children from fishing villages. Hindus, Muslims, Catholics, on his field, they were all the same. All worthy, all capable of greatness. Batticaloa's old esplanade was more water than land, a marshy stretch that flooded with every monsoon. But Father Weber saw what others couldn't, a place where children could run without fear, where a town could gather in joy. So he set to work. He convinced families to relocate ancestral graves. He persuaded engineers from the Gal Oya Dam to lend their machinery. And then, week after week, he stood in the sun, overseeing the back-breaking labor of raising the land, foot by foot, acre by acre. When it was done, no one debated what to call it. The Weber Stadium was more than a playing field. It was a testament to what one determined man could build for the love of his community. As age slowed his steps, Father Weber found a new pulpit, a video camera. He recorded religious films, educational programs, even cartoons for children who had no TV at home. The Weber Studio became a sanctuary of imagination and faith. In that dimly lit room, a new generation discovered the world beyond Batticaloa. They laughed at cartoons, marveled at documentaries, and absorbed the gospel through his carefully chosen films. Even in his final years, he was still teaching, still giving. On an April morning in 1998, Father Weber left this world as quietly as he had lived in it, without fanfare, without demands. The moment the news spread, Batticaloa stood still. The streets filled with mourners, old students now graying at the temples, young children who knew him only as Father, soldiers who respected him, politicians who admired him. They walked together, a sea of grief and gratitude, pausing at the stadium that bore his name before laying him to rest beside the statue of St. Ignatius. Today, his name echoes in the cheers of athletes, in the pages of books at the reading room, in the whispered prayers of those who still remember. He was not just a priest, not just a teacher. He was a man who turned a floodplain into a field of dreams, who turned strangers into family, who made an ordinary life extraordinary through sheer love. Reverend Father Harold John Weber, S.J., a man who built more than a stadium. He built a legacy of faith, resilience, and unconditional love.